survive on its own. This led to numerous challenges like competition for the routes, fighting for lucrative routes, lack of cohesion, use of unsafe and unroadworthy vehicles, and sometimes violence, to mention but a few. As part of its responsibility within the anti-tripartite process, the ANC-led government introduced policies, legal frameworks, and related measures to support the taxi industry. The National White Paper on Transport Policy is one such intervention on policy matters. The White Paper recognizes the important role played by the taxi industry in the mainstream public transport and calls not only for the formalization and regulation of the industry, but also pronounced on competition for roads and not competition on the roads. Simply put, the industry must be supported to compete for public transport contracts on specified routes and desist from competing for passengers on the roads in a form of regulated competitive tender. And I want to say, when you compete for passengers, it is the passengers that get injured. It is the passengers that get hurt, emotionally as well as physically, because then you don't know whether when I get into this vehicle I will be safe or whatever. So I think it is important that we remember the rationale behind the white paper. Government also introduced laws and regulations to support the taxi industry. The National Land Transport Act, which was preceded by the National Land Transport Transition Act. The NLTA provides for the development of integrated public transport network plans, which is the IRPTN, by planning and contracting authorities. Well-developed plans should include operations by all modes of public passenger transport, including taxis. This is a requirement that would qualify complying municipalities to benefit from the Department of Transport's Managed Public Transport Infrastructure and Systems Grant. It is logical that the IRPTN's designs, whose operations affect and to some extent replace current operations, should involve those current operations in new ones. You know, the ANC government introduced participatory democracy, the need for public consultation and input. In everything that we do, we put out for public input. And it is important that when municipalities start to engage with regard to whether they are via REA and all these others that are called differently, Cape Town is called My City and many others, you should be able to make sure that you as the industry, through your organization SANTACO, is consulted, but also you make your necessary inputs so that they can then respond to the needs of the industry. The case in point is the state that Joburg's via operations are managed by the local taxi operators under the auspices of Rio Tinto. The national government insists that all other municipalities adopt this model if they are to comply with both the NLTA and the Public Transport Strategy of 2007. But Secretary General and Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, allow me to make an appeal to the operators here. You cannot have a stake in a business and tomorrow you compete against it. We got some scary stories about you as the industry having a stake in their buyer, but later on coming back to operate in the routes of their buyer. So you are actually taking away that very profit you could have received through dividends that would flow back to you. So when a route has been negotiated to be a BRT route, you need to now consider the alternative routes and be able to even negotiate with the municipality for routes that might not have existed in the past. But for you to go back and compete with that very, it's like, for example, you have a bakery, you bake bread every day, but on the soup, you yourself again, you take some makwenya. So the person before they get into the bakery, they pass amakwenya, and then the next thing they say your bread is stale. So I want to appeal to you. Let us make sure that when we have participated and we are satisfied that this is what we want, let us not compete against ourselves. Let us make it possible ensure that that initiative succeeds in the interest of the country, but in your own interest. The Department of Transport has also introduced and implemented various programs and processes to support the taxi industry. This included the special legalization process, the Be Legal campaign, as well as the famous tax recapitalization program. Once the SLP and the BLC were designed to legalize illegal taxis, the TRPs aim to replace old unroadworthy and unsafe vehicles with new safe ones. To date, 57,504 vehicles have been scrapped. That is a big number. I'm also happy to announce that Cabinet has approved that we increase the scrapping allowance from 66,000 to 70,000 per vehicle. With inflation-linked increases at the beginning of each financial year. So it means every year we will increase it according to the inflation levels that we have been identified. We know that this is little bit immediate, but it is something that would help you to continue. But it is also an indication of the seriousness that government attaches to the industry. If there was somebody who told you that this government wants to kill the taxi industry, you yourselves must be the witnesses and the ones that advocate for government and say, not this government. Because we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that this government has done with us. And this government is serious in saying that the taxi industry will continue being part of our framework for public transport. And that is why you would have realized that even in terms of the PRASA rolling stock, we have identified the need to engage with the taxi industry. But also remember, we've also said all the facilities that both PRASA and other entities established for transportation as well as for moving people must be multimodal. That is why the example that we have at KZN with regards to Bridge City. So I would believe that wherever we put up the stations, we need to create space for the participation and for the operations of the taxi industry, so that you can also start benefiting from decent as well as well-covered and user-friendly facilities that government provides. Program Director, I call upon SANTACO not only to support the program, but also to take keen interest in the benefits that accrue to them as a partner and a shareholder in the taxi scrapping agency. This is your business, and you must benefit as an organization, as well as it must benefit your members. I also want to announce that we're in the process of reviewing the program to maximize the benefits to the industry at large. Recently, we all know that government adopted the 2030 National Development Plan, whose theme is, and I quote, "Our future, make it work," close quote. The LTP enjoins us to create a social contract that must help propel South Africa to higher levels of development, as well as build a more cohesive and equitable society. And there is emphasis on the development of SMEs within the NDP. And I call upon SANTACO to partner with us as we align our plans and programs with the NDP. So it is important that our plans as the transport department must be able to encapsulate that which you as SANTACO would want to see being realized through the NDP. So we are calling on you to critique, but also to make input into the plans of the department and its entities. Program Director, ladies and gentlemen, last year in October, I met the SANTACO leadership as part of our stakeholder engagement. Even though the meeting was supposed to be a meet and greet type of meeting, I want to commend SANTACO for making it to get on with serious business right away. Remember, as part of the process after appointment of ministers, you meet with entities of the department. We took a decision to include SANTACO as part of the list of entities. So we treat SANTACO as part of the transport family, not an add-on. It is in that meeting, ladies and gentlemen, where I was made to realize, and also the challenges that you are faced with. But also it is in that meeting that I directed the department to organize the Taxi Summit. And that Taxi Summit will develop and adopt resolutions that will allow us, in the spirit of moving South Africa forward, to develop programs that will transform the taxi industry like never before. I'm happy today to announce that the summit will take place on the 16th and 17th of April this year. Issues that will be discussed and possibly resolved in that summit include all issues raised with me in the October meeting, namely the taxi recapitalization, the subsidy, because that was eloquently put. But we also want to engage with regard to, is this subsidy following the commuter or the operator? Because it is important that we already hear and get an input from the taxi industry on the models for this subsidy, but they must also understand the challenges that they let themselves into. But also, you must understand that with every right comes responsibility. Yeah. So when we speak subsidy, you must know that there are particular requirements that we will have to build into this particular matter. And it is not something that we are going to conceptualize in the summit and the next day we then say, this is the subsidy. You would know we need to go out after the summit to go and plan, to go and look at the regulations and look at the legislation and make sure that we get national treasury on board and get other departments on board. And also budget for that, Comrade Chairperson, to make it possible that when we make the announcement at the time, we then would have the necessary financial backing and treasury support to make sure that whatever we say must happen can then be done with immediate effect. But also, the summit must focus on economic empowerment, especially with regards to cooperatives. I also said to the Secretary General when I arrived here that I'm not going to postcards, and he proved to me, and he said, postcards. In fact, even when the delegation of the Eastern Cape was announced, I heard the leading voice being Obama, and I could hear that she's giving direction. So it is important that we realize that this economic empowerment cannot happen without women. And let me tell you that just before we closed in cabinet, we passed through, not in cabinet, in parliament, we passed through the women empowerment and gender, women and gender empowerment bill, the wage bill. So that bill is a bill that forces us to make sure that 50% does happen. So next time when you come to a SANTACO conference, that we want to have 50%. Because when you empower women, you actually empower the nation. This empowerment, I got in the nuts. Yakara a garden of Egypt, who is empowered to enter. We also want the summit, over and above everything else, to focus on legislation and in particular policies, but the National Land Transport Act, so as to make it possible that where we are found wanting, we can strengthen the legislation. But also the one big thing, and I know that the delegation from Gauteng was always speaking about the operating licenses. We want to make sure that at that summit, we also speak about these matters, but also come with a solution, a long-lasting solution. And we say that solution should be a solution that will be informed by what you could be able to do to make sure that this particular matter is resolved. But also training and development. Earlier on, I did speak about the professionalization of the taxi industry. We need to make sure that your drivers, your marshals, the people who are working within your offices and areas of your operation feel proud to be associated with the taxi industry. We need to also make sure that we work with the transport education training authority, the CETA, to make it possible that our people can be trained so that they can graduate out of the environment that they are in. Many that we have. So it is important that you actually realize that the bridge that you have created in the industry for many young people who end up being drivers so as to make money to be able to go to school. You actually contributed to the skills drive in the country. But you also need those who are in the industry. Is it the leadership? When you get into the boardrooms, to know what exactly you're supposed to be doing, to know whether taxi choice is ripping you off or not, to know whether the taxi recapitalization or not, scrapping agency is giving you value for money. You need people to be trained to understand that. Use training and development, and we also need to hear from you. What else can we do to make it possible that you can benefit from this? But also the integrated rapid public transport networks and the bus rapid transit. That's all. Many of the municipalities are not going that route. What is it? You might have different experiences from different provinces. You might have good practices that we can actually take and use as a model for the nation. So it is important that we participate and make it possible, because this BRT or their buyers area, they are now at the initial or first phases. They are going to be rolled out more. So for them to be rolled out more, they cannot continue without your participation. So it is important that you can come and tell us what is it that we can do better. Because it is within the framework of moving South Africa forward and focusing on public transport that these realities are going to be centered. But also we need to speak about the National Public Transport Regulator. I heard Comrade Ruth speak about the role of SANTACO and the taxi industry in all modes of transport. But also it is important that we generally look at a particular area, because you are carrying, like we said earlier, 65% of the public commuters or public transport reliant commuters. So it is important that you can tell us, we can work together on making this regulator to work for you, but to work for the commuter, because the regulator must also carry the interest of the commuters. And also road safety. We have heard many times, and I'm happy to indicate that on all platforms where I have been with regard to road safety, the taxi industry has been there. All the Rough on the Road initiatives that we held throughout the country, the taxi industry was there. And I just want to indicate that as a department and as a government, we don't subscribe to the notion that says the taxi industry is contributing to the carnage on the roads. The point that was made by the chairperson, that we know you carry big numbers, and it is the numbers of fatalities that we're talking about. And it doesn't only speak to you as the operator and the driver, but it also speaks to the quality of the vehicle. So it is important that we also engage with the industry that is manufacturing the vehicles to say that we want to make sure that the safety of the passenger is uppermost. The safety of the driver is uppermost. So that we don't end up in situations where we talk across purposes about road safety. But